because the MS Society really recommends a high-fiber diet. There's two different types of fiber, and again, fiber is always going to be found on your food label, so it's something that you can always find, and it's in bold. The two types of fiber are soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber is actually what's touted the most for lowering cholesterol. It's the one that they kind of sing the praises in the oatmeal commercials and say that, you eat oatmeal for 20 days, your cholesterol goes down 20 points. That's your heart-healthy fiber. That's the soluble. And the daily recommendation for soluble fiber is going to be 3 grams a day. And you can get 1 gram from a bowl of oatmeal. You can get 1 gram of soluble fiber from a bowl of Cheerios. You can get soluble fiber from fiber supplements such as Metamucil or Benefiber, or any of the the fiber supplements out there usually contain 1 gram of soluble fiber. So that is going to be your heart healthy fiber. That's the soluble fiber. The other type of fiber is your insoluble. That's what's going to come from the peeling of your fruits and vegetables, whole wheat breads, whole grain foods. That's good for your intestinal health. Fiber is good for adding bulk to the stool, and if you drink and stay well hydrated with the proper amount of water, then it can really relieve constipation and any type of gastric issues. So the goal for fiber a day is actually your total fiber intake should be 25 to 35 grams a day. And just so you know, the average American gets between 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day. So it's really an area that we need to work on. We need to focus on high fiber foods. Look for the fruits and vegetables with the peelings. Look for high fiber cereals. Look for whole wheat bread, whole grain foods. There's even products out there. You can get Pop-Tarts with fiber now. Fiber One is making Pop-Tarts. So it's really kind of hit the market as far as companies trying to make it easier for you to increase your fiber intake. And again, there's all the supplements. But I will just say one thing about fiber. If you think you have a low fiber diet right now and you want to try to increase your fiber, you want to take it slowly, because if you all of a sudden decide tomorrow to eat 35 grams of fiber, whereas you normally have 5 grams, you will have a stomach ache. So make sure when you increase the fiber that you also increase the water in your diet, increase the fluids, just so you can kind of get adjusted to it. But since the National MS Society recommends a high fiber diet, I wanted to touch on the 2 different kinds, where you can find what food sources are in those 2 different types of fiber, and how much you need of each of them. So, and there is one other little thing I will make a note of, and this is something to talk with your doctor about, because there's varying amounts of research out there, but I did run across some information regarding B12 supplementation. And there are a lot of individuals that get B12 shots, and that's fine, when their doctors approve of it. But there's really not a lot of research that by getting them alone, it really improves your MS symptoms. So, make sure if you're considering that or you've read about it that you do talk to your doctor about that. But there's not a lot of proven research out there that the B12 supplementation on its own actually improves your MS symptoms. There are some other conditions where you definitely need it, but MS is not one of those that there's been a tremendous amount of improvement in the symptoms in. And then the second point of tonight that I did want to talk about was osteoporosis. I wanted to talk about this briefly because osteoporosis is actually pretty prevalent in the MS population. A lot of that's due to taking steroids and corticosteroids and the way that those medicines and medications affect your bones and your bone density. osteoporosis is a condition where you lose bone mass, and you lose it over time, and your bones eventually become a little bit softer, which there's kind of an in-between stage called osteopenia, which is actually not full-blown osteoporosis, but there is a softening of the bones beginning to occur. And then that can lead to osteoporosis, which is just very brittle, very porous bones that are easily fractured and easily broken. For those individuals with low bone density or with osteopenia or osteoporosis, there are a lot of very effective medications that are out there that actually can build back some bone density, and they're very effective, and they've been much easier to take now over the last few years. And physical activity, any type of physical therapy, fall prevention, reducing the hazards of falling and breaking a bone are very important to do. Any weight-bearing exercise, anytime that you can lift weights, that you can put pressure on your bones, like walking or jogging, anytime you can do any weight-bearing exercise, that's going to build your bone density. And especially strength training, because you're strengthening the muscles between your bones, so it makes them less resistant to breaking. So that's going to be an important part of the overall picture for reducing your risk for osteoporosis. But like I mentioned before, a lot of steroid medication over time can reduce your bone density. Other things that reduce your bone density are a decrease in either estrogen and or testosterone. So when a woman is going through menopause, the first 5 years after menopause can be the greatest amount of bone loss for a woman. So those first 5 years are critical to work with your physician as far as what you can do, nutrition, physical activity, what you can do to best preserve your bones, especially those first 5 years past menopause. That drop-off in estrogen is really when a lot of the bone loss can occur. So it's critical to make sure that during that window you're getting the proper milligrams of calcium and that you're getting the proper exercise. A low-calcium diet can contribute to osteoporosis. Smoking can contribute to osteoporosis. An excessive intake of alcohol can also contribute. And also, the people at risk the most are those that, primarily females, get osteoporosis more. People with a thin frame, small bones, Caucasian women are at a greater risk than African American women. Those are going to kind of be the target population that you most likely see with osteoporosis. A family history can definitely contribute to osteoporosis, and it's just something that you want, even if you're 15, 20, 25, 30, it's never too late to start having a calcium-rich diet, and it's never too late to really try to reach your peak bone density, which is actually around the age of 30. Between 30 and 35 is really peak bone density, and after that, you slowly begin to see a decrease. Calcium-rich foods, of course, are going to primarily be your dairy products. Your milk, there's not more calcium in whole milk than in skim milk. Every, 1%, 2% skim milk, whole milk, one glass that all contains the same amount of calcium. There's not a difference in the amount of calcium. Organic milk contains the same amount of calcium as cow's milk. Soy milk also contains calcium. Calcium is also going to be found on the food label. And there's a real easy way to determine how many milligrams of calcium are in each food product is if you look at the food label and it's a slice of cheese and it says calcium, which will be abbreviated Ca. If it says 15%, all you have to do is remove the percent sign and add a 0. So it would be 150 milligrams in each slice of cheese. The same goes for milk. It'll say Ca, which stands for calcium,